I want you to picture something for a second.
Uh-huh.
You're at a party, it's loud, music's blasting, and you can't find your friend anywhere.
Right.
So you're, scanning the room, looking over the crowd. To you, that just feels like a visual task.
Yeah.
Like you're hunting for a face.
But what's so fascinating is that if we could track your eyes in that moment, those tiny frantic movements wouldn't just be about who you're looking for. They actually be revealing how your brain is processing the words in the conversation happening right next to you.
And that's the part that makes me a little uncomfortable. The thought that my eyes are basically snitching on my brain.
They are. In a way, they're leaking data about what you're thinking before you've even fully formed the thought.
Well, on that slightly unsettling note, let's dive in. Today, we're looking at something called the visual world paradigm. It's a research method that it's pretty much completely changed how we think about understanding language.
Yeah.
We used to see it as this abstract thing that just happens in our heads, totally separate from what we're looking at.
Right, the old idea of language as product, like words on a page, just static.
Exactly. But the research we're getting into today, it argues for language as action. This idea that language is a real-time collision between what we hear and what we see.
And for this deep dive, we're drawing from a foundational text, Chapter 22 of the Handbook of Psycholinguistics by Michael Tannenhouse and John Trueswell.
It really is the manifesto for this whole area of study.
It is. Their whole argument is that our eyes give us this incredible window into the mind. And this is the key part. It's a window that opens before we even know what we're thinking. It just shatters that old idea that we process a sentence, then figure out what it means, and then look at the world.
Okay, so before we get into the really wild experiments, let's just establish the basic mechanism here. We're talking about saccades, right?
Saccades, exactly. They're these very rapid ballistic eye movements. When you look from, say, your phone over to the door, your eyes don't pan smoothly.
Like a camera.
Right. It's a jump, a ballistic jump.
And ballistic makes it sound like a projectile, like it's been fired.
That's a perfect way to think about it. Once a saccade launches, you can't stop it. The brain computes where it's going to go, it fires the signal, and that's it. You're locked in.
And what decides the target?
Relevance. And this gets us to the core theory, the linking hypothesis.
Okay.
All it says is that when you hear a word, let's say candle, the activation of that word in your brain immediately increases the chance that you'll launch a saccade toward a candle, if there's one in front of you.
But how fast is that link? Because I feel like I wait for the whole word. You say candle, I hear the whole word, then I look.
That's what it feels like.
Yep.
But the data, even going way back to Roger Cooper in 1974, showed something different. He had people listen to a story while looking at pictures. He found that if the story mentioned a clown, people's eyes landed on the picture of the clown before the speaker had even finished saying the word.
So the brain is constantly racing ahead of the ear.
Constantly. And later studies showed just how messy that race really is. We have to talk about the beaker experiment.
Ah, yes. This is the big one from Alapena, Magnuson, and Tannenhouse. It shows how the brain sort of hedges its bets. So, okay, let's set the scene for you. You're in a lab, staring at a computer screen. There's a cross in the middle, and then 4 objects pop up.
Right. You've got the target object, which is a beaker. Then you have a cohort object, something that sounds similar at the start, like a beetle.
Beaker, beetle, got it.
Then you have a rhyme, like a speaker. And finally, just some unrelated object, like a carriage.
And the instruction is super simple. Pick up the beaker.
So what they found was that about 200 milliseconds after the word starts, just as that B sound is hitting your ear, your eyes do something amazing.
They split.
They split. The odds of you looking at the beaker and the beetle become identical. Your brain has basically activated every word it knows that starts with B, and it's using your eyes to test both hypotheses at once. Is it the beetle? Is it the beaker?
And it only decides when it gets more information, like the K sound in beaker.
Exactly. But here's the part that really blows people's minds. The study found that people also glanced at the speaker.
Wait, the speaker? That starts with an S. Why would hearing beaker make me look at a speaker?
Because your brain is processing the sound continuously. By the time you're halfway through the word beaker, that eaker sound is a perfect rhyme for speaker. So the fact that your eyes flicker over there proves the brain is keeping rhyming alternatives on the back burner.
Just in case. It's like it's thinking, I'm pretty sure I heard a B, but let's just keep the speaker option open for a millisecond.
It's like an autocomplete function gone wild. It's just grabbing at anything in the neighborhood of similar sounding words in real time. We don't wait around for the word to be clear.
So that covers single words. But the source material pushes this so much further, arguing that our vision actually helps us solve grammar problems. This is the famous apple experiment.
Right, which deals with syntactic ambiguity. That's just a fancy term for a sentence that can be read in two different ways.
And the example they use is, put the apple on the towel in the box.
It's a clunky sentence, isn't it?
It is. If you just hear, put the apple on the towel, my first thought is that the towel is the destination. I'm putting an apple onto an empty towel.
Exactly. You parse on the towel as the goal, but then the sentence keeps going in the box. And suddenly you have to backtrack and think, oh, wait, you meant the apple that was already on a towel?
Right. On the towel was a description, a modifier,
Hmm.
not a destination.
So is it a goal or a modifier? In a text-only world, you have to wait for the whole sentence to finish to solve that puzzle. But with your eyes, you can solve it instantly. They showed this with two scenarios.
Let's break those down because the eye movements are just night and day.
Okay, so scenario A is the one referent context. On the screen, you see one apple that's on a towel. You also see an empty towel and a box.
Right.
When people hear, put the apple on the towel, their eyes immediately shoot to the empty towel.
Because there's only one apple. My brain doesn't need you to tell me which apple, so it assumes on the towel must be the instruction, the place to put it.
And when they hear the rest, in the box, you see their eyes just darting around confused. They went down the garden path. The visual context misled them.
But then comes scenario B, the two referent context. Now there are two apples, one on a towel and another one on a napkin, and the box is still there.
This time when you hear, put the apple on the towel, your eyes never even glance at the empty towel, not for a fraction of a second. You look straight at the apple that's sitting on the towel.
Because the visual context, the fact that there are two apples, tells my brain, hey, hold on, we need more information here. We need a modifier to tell them apart.
That's the referential principle in action. You use the visual world to get rid of grammatical ambiguity on the fly. You're not just parsing words, you're parsing the entire scene in front of you.
It just shows how incredibly efficient we are.
Aww.
And speaking of efficiency, the source material moves from just reacting to words to actually predicting what's coming next. This is the cake study.
Altman and Kamid, 1999, yeah. This one shows we are basically time travelers when we listen. We're living in the future of the sentence.
So for this one, I'm looking at a picture. There's a boy, a cake, and some toys. And the sentence I hear is, the boy will eat.
And that's it. That's the magic trick. While word eat is still being spoken, before the word cake has even been said, your eyes are already moving to the cake.
Because you can't eat a toy. Well, you can, but you shouldn't.
Exactly. The verb eat puts a massive constraint on the world. It requires an object that is edible. So your brain scans the scene, filters out the non-edible stuff, and locks on to the only thing that makes sense, the cake.
It reframes listening as this proactive thing. I'm not just passively receiving information. I'm actively predicting what you're going to say next.
You're running ahead based on what's possible in the world. If the sentence was, the boy will play with, your eyes would probably dart between the toys and the cake because both are possible. But eat, that really narrows it down.
That makes perfect sense. But there's another layer here that's not just about the physical world, but about social rules. The tall glass experiment.
Yeah, the pragmatics. This is about how context shapes meaning. So in this study by Sidivi and her colleagues, you see a display with, say, a tall glass and a pitcher. The instruction is, pick up the tall.
Hold on. If there's only one glass, why would you call it the tall glass? That's redundant. You just say the glass.
You've got it. It violates the unwritten rules of conversation. We don't usually use an adjective like tall unless we need to distinguish it from a short one. It's what's called a contrastive inference.
So if I hear the word tall, my brain is already looking for a short one to compare it to.
Immediately. The study showed that as soon as listeners heard the adjective, they started scanning the scene for a contrasting pair of objects. If they see a tall glass and a short glass, they find the target right away. But if they don't see a short one, their eyes wander. They're confused.
Because the speaker broke a social rule of being efficient.
Precisely. It shows we're constantly trying to figure out the speaker's intent. Why did they choose that word? And our eyes reveal that whole thought process.
But, and this seems like a pretty big but, we aren't born doing this, are we? This ability to juggle all these different cues.
Not at all. We have to learn it. And that brings us to the frogs.
The frog study. This is where they did the apple experiment again. Put the frog on the napkin in the box, but with 5-year-olds. And you could just picture the chaos.
You can. So remember, when adults see two frogs, they use that context to figure out that on the napkin is just a label. It's telling them which frog, 5-year-olds. They just don't get it.
So what do? You've got two frogs. One is on a napkin. There's also an empty napkin and a box. The child hears, "Put the frog on the napkin."
And that's where they stop listening to the grammar and start acting. They hear on the napkin as a destination, so they grab the
Flop
frog.
it over onto the empty napkin.
And then they hear on the box and realize they're not done. So they pick the frog up from the napkin. They just put it on and move it to the box.
They just act it out sequentially, literally.
Yeah. It's not that they don't see the other frog. The issue is how they weigh the different cues. For a 5-year-old, a verb like put is incredibly powerful. It almost always means move this thing to that place. They trust that strong, reliable verb pattern more than the subtle visual cue of needing to tell two frogs apart.
So they haven't learned to let the visual world override the grammatical impulse yet.
Exactly. The system is running, but the part of the brain that integrates all these different inputs, that's still developing.
Okay, so far we've been talking about people following instructions, pick this up, move that. But the chapter finishes by moving into real two-way conversation, what they call the action tradition.
Yeah, this is where it gets really complex. Because now it's not just about what I see, it's about what I think you see. We call this establishing common ground.
And do we actually do that? I mean, I feel like I'm constantly being egocentric, pointing at things my partner can't see and saying, that thing over there.
Well, there's a big debate about that. One side, led by researchers like Boaz Kezar, argues that we are fundamentally egocentric at first. Their experiments suggest we initially look at things only we can see, and then we correct ourselves a moment later.
The act first, apologize later model of conversation.
Kind of. But then another group of researchers, like Brown-Schmidt, argued that the type of task really matters. When they put people in a truly cooperative, game-like working together to arrange stickers, that egocentric bias just vanished.
So when it's a team effort, I actually stop trying to refer to the secret block that only I can see.
Almost instantly. In those cooperative tasks, listeners are incredibly good at aligning their reality with the speaker's reality. If they know the speaker can't see the blue block, they don't even consider it as an option. Their eye movements are constrained to the shared world.
So we're not selfish. We just need a shared goal to get us to cooperate.
That seems to be what the evidence points to. And that really brings us back to the central theme of Tannenhouse and Truswell's work. Language isn't just a code. It's a tool we use to coordinate our actions in a shared world.
So if we zoom out and look at the whole journey, from the beaker to the frogs to this common ground stuff, what's the big picture here?
The big picture is that language isn't some separate module in the brain that we just feed sounds into. It's a continuous live performance.
At the word level, just hearing beaker sets off this frantic visual search for beetles and speakers.
At the sentence level, just how many apples are on the table can completely rewrite the grammar of a sentence as you hear it. The world is clarifying the words.
And at the predictive level, just hearing eat makes us find the cake before the word is even spoken. We're always a step ahead.
It's this beautiful symphony of inputs, and for me, the most powerful point the authors make is what they call the implicit measure.
Right. The fact that we have no idea we're doing any of this.
None at all. You can't control your saccades. You can control your facial expression, your words. You can nod and pretend you understand someone perfectly. But your eyes are ballistic. They don't lie.
They're like a lie detector for confusion.
Or for understanding, or for anticipation. Your eyes can reveal that you've misunderstood me or that you've already figured out my joke milliseconds before you actually laugh or say anything. They are confessing your cognitive state while your conscious mind is still playing catch-up.
That is both deeply cool and a little bit terrifying. I'm going to be paying way too much attention to where my eyes are going now.
Just try not to look at the beetle when you ask for the beaker, and I think you'll be okay.
I will do my best. That's all we have for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.